French President Emmanuel Macron is continuing a 3-day visit to the southern port city of Marseille. And today he's set to attend what's dubbed the largest summit on biodiversity in the world. The aim of this year's gathering is to protect wildlife and habitats. And joining us now is Thomas Sberna. He is the regional coordinator for the Marine and Coastal Resilience at IUCN. Thanks so much for joining us. I know that your group focuses on marine life and oceans, but having said that, what do you think should be among the biggest priorities at this conference on biodiversity?
Yeah, well, clearly, I think, the science tells us very clearly that the next decade is going to be absolutely key for the future of our planet and our societies. So it's really about how to reverse, what's happening currently, which is a lot of degradation of those ecosystems, of an enormous sort of loss of wildlife. Actually, as a matter of fact, in 2020, WWF released the Living Planet report that showed that we already lost 70% of wildlife on Earth. So the thing is, and here again, the science shows us that the next decade is going to be absolutely key if we actually want to have a chance to really set and put us on the right tracks to fight climate change and to really sustain and reconcile eventually our relationship with nature. And this is what this Congress is going to be really about, is how to really sort of make conservation work for the planet, for nature, and for the people. Because this is, eventually, it can only work if eventually local communities, indigenous people, and our societies at large are really at the center and direct beneficiaries of the restoration and conservation of those natural ecosystems.
I know that you and your group focus on oceans and marine life. So how dire is the situation with respect to the world's oceans, and is it possible to restore them?
Right. Well, that's a very good question. Quite frankly, and to be very completely transparent, the situation is really not good. In the time of fisheries, for instance, we've more than a third that the global fisheries are overexploited. More than half of them are already at their limits. We are still dumping 8 million tons of plastics every year in our oceans. And I can go on and on and on. Like, for instance, we already lost more than a third of the coral cover globally. And this is not sort of right now. We're still on sort of the downward path. Now, the good news is that it's actually a very extremely resilient ecosystem if we actually stop putting so much pressure on it. It does not mean, and that to be very clear, it does not mean that we cannot use and sustainably use natural resources. It just means that we need to sort of come up with new models and sustainable practices so that we can actually enjoy them, and more importantly, maybe even the future generation as well. So that means that existing solutions are already happening. Now the key question is, how can we accelerate the implementation of the solution, and how can we scale those up? And this is what this Congress is going to be really about. It's going to be about action. It's going to be about how to accelerate this action, how can really scale up what's all the really good things that are already happening through the civil society, through the government, through science, and how to really unlock dramatically much more of those.
You're talking there about resilience and solutions to the problems. I know your group talks about a resilient blue economy. First of all, what is that, and how might it help, have the environment restored?
Right, well, that's an excellent question. It's even more than resilient blue economy, what we're talking about today. It's regenerative blue economy. Why? Because we actually, and there is really an opportunity to reverse and sort of come up with new business models that will become the driver of the regeneration. So like those sort of value chains, those sort of practices that can actually deliver both socio-economic outcomes, which are absolutely critical, obviously, but also conservation outcomes, because the reality is very simple. We won't be able to reach the 2030 targets from the Convention of Biodiversity or the SDGs or even the UNFCCC, the Paris Agreement, if and only if the private sector really also becomes a very important pillar and driver of regeneration. So here we're calling about how to turn our economies into regenerative economy. There is things already happening. There is business model. There is operation already happening. We need to highlight them. We need to identify them. We need to bring the right people at the table and sort of provide the financial resources, the support, the technical support, so that they can actually accelerate dramatically and also scale up.
Okay, we want to thank you, Thomas Sberna. He's the regional coordinator for the Marine and Coastal Resilience at IUCN. Thanks so much for your time.